Hi everybody, and thanks for joining me today. Start of a new month, yay! And I think that I'm going to finish this month. I managed to get way past what I thought I was going to get in March. I managed over 9,000 stitches that month, so I have exactly 6,000 stitches remaining to do, and 6,000 has been my sort of estimate for each month. So I think that that's probably going to happen, especially because I looked ahead and it's not too confetti heavy. I counted how many envelopes I have left. I have 27 colors remaining, so less than a third of the colors remaining. Everything else is zeroed out. So this has been fun. I finished off most of the peacock's tail. That was where a bunch of my zeros came from. And today I am working below it in the background, sort of out of focus flowers part. All right, so let's get going. All right, so the colors are kind of going, as you can see, kind of almost sideways. There's a sort of a big bunch that's kind of curving around at the bottom. So I'm going to kind of just follow that. It won't make a perfect diagonal, but I don't mind that. As I say, my big guidelines are my to make everything I do connected on at least one side and to try not to close anything in on all four sides. No, if I could just thread my needle here. There we go. So yeah, I kept saying, no, I won't be done till May, and a lot of you said, I think you'll be done in April, and looks like you may have been right. It does, like I say, make a big difference when it's when there aren't as many colors. When there's big blocks of color, obviously they go much quicker. So just finished wrestling this whole thing back in the stand after spreading it all out and taking a picture. Yeah, it's nice out here. We still have snow on the ground. It's very old, crusty snow, so that seems to take longer to melt too. And it's kind of, because basically a lot of the snowdrifts on the ground are actually ice now, because they kind of half melted and refroze, and that takes forever. The houses across my street always get to see their lawns faster than we do, just because of the direction that the sun is. They get more sun on their front lawns than we do. My house is blocking it for most of the day, so a lot of the melt I get on my front lawn is from temperature and not from the sun shining on it, and that makes a big difference. The neighbors who lived next to me a few years ago, they sold the house and new people moved in, but the older guy, he used to take his snowblower and kind of break up all the snow that was on his front lawn, and the idea being that it would melt faster, but it actually didn't make any difference because my husband never did that for ours because he didn't want to wreck the grass, right? To risk wrecking the grass with the snowblower. And yeah, they all melted at the same rate, so it really didn't make that much of a difference. What makes the most difference is kind of chucking it in the sun, in the sunny part. So sometimes we'll do that when we get sick of waiting for it to melt. Oh, I did that wrong. Darn. Not off to the best start, my gosh. Make sure I get the strands correctly, because otherwise when you pull, you shred the thread, and you don't want that. I actually did that once, and the thread actually broke, which which I didn't know was possible, but turns out it is. Alrighty. Make sure I don't make that same mistake again. I'll be stuck fixing it again. That would be annoying. We'll see when I get any more zeros. I looked, and the stuff that's close to zeroing out, those stitches are like in the very bottom right hand corner, so I'll actually probably zero out some of the numbers with more stitches left first before those, because there's some of the very last I have to do. Cross this as I go, but honestly it probably won't make much difference because I'm probably going to run out of stitches, or run out of thread before I run out of stitches to do. So I was talking last time about it's the final season of Outlander, the show, and but the books have not been finished yet. So apparently we are probably going to end up with 2 different endings, the books versus the show. And from what I read some stuff, I did some Googling and looked around, and the author apparently has approved of how the show is going to end. So that's good. But yeah, that's kind of weird. I guess it's the same kind of thing like Game of Thrones. As far as I know, he still hasn't finished the book series. But from what I heard, it was the same ending that he planned. I could be wrong. You can correct me on that if I am. But yeah, this one is, we're on season 8, and there's going to be one last book, which is like season 10. So, or it would be season 10, but it's book 10, I mean. There's going to be one last book, so obviously it's not going to be quite the same. I don't know. I have read up to book 8. So, Written in My Heart's Own Blood, I read that one. And I have not read the one after that. And like I said, it was kind of a slog for me. I kind of felt like, I jokingly said on my review, I felt like I was going to still be trying to finish this when I was dead. Because it just went on for a long, long, long time. And there's a lot of people saying there's a lot of plot threads they're not sure if she's going to be able to successfully tie them all up or not. But there's a lot of characters at this point. So many that sometimes it's hard to keep track. So I don't know. I might eventually finish the books, but because I'm trying to remember, when did I read that one? Was like 2018, I think, something like that. It's been quite a while. Yeah, I started reading the series 2003, I think. And she started publishing in like 1991. And then somebody recommended, I opened up and I started reading and I went, oh, first person. I generally don't like that. I usually am a third person. And for point of view is what I prefer, but she was good enough that it was engaging enough that I read it. She said, well, she didn't know. She said basically that she was just doing it for fun. She never really thought she'd get published. And it was one of those things that somebody found it and they liked it. And yeah, because a lot of people aren't willing to make the time commitment of reading books that are that huge too. I don't mind that. It's been kind of frustrating because I remember kind of before self-publishing changed things for a long time. They were starting to make books that were 300 pages or less, and that was starting to annoy me because I felt like they just, a lot of times you couldn't fit all the character development I like in that few pages. And it was one of those vicious cycle things. Like there was for a long time, if you read historical romance, everything was Regency, Victorian. There was almost no other historical, like, in fact, I remember there was a website that talks about it who would have a whole list of historical romance not in a ballroom because everything was Regency for a long time. And authors said, yeah, they were trying to write other books and publishers wouldn't pick them up. And they'd say, well, you know, that's what sells. And it's like, okay, but that's what sells because that's all there is to buy. Like, and so self-publishing kind of helped change things a bit because they got to see that, hey, guess what? These other genres, people are still interested in them. Yeah, they were saying like things have really changed now that mass market paperback is kind of disappearing. Everything's trade paperbacks, which are much more expensive because mass market paperbacks used to be like $8 or less. And sometimes you could find them for much cheaper. I remember there would be $5 tables at like Zellers and stuff. And I would go and buy a bunch because for $5 it wasn't bad. And yeah, it's not as common now. They like the trade size. And some people said that made them really upset because for some of these really long-running series, they have been out for, you know, sometimes 20, even more years. And so all the earlier books were in mass market paperback size. And then they started releasing later ones in trade paperback, which were like 2 inches taller. And so obviously people who like to collect paper books were not happy because they don't match now, right? So I said, yeah, maybe it's because they're trying to make you buy, they reissue the earlier ones in trade paperback size, so you'll want to buy it to make them match. But yeah, that's annoying. I mean, it's funny because I don't really read paper books very much anymore. I think a lot of people are the same, but that still seems to drive a lot of the sales. Yeah, I tend to read ebooks now because, like I say, I like the fact that I can make the font bigger. Yeah, I never thought I would, but I bought a Kindle in 2019 because I discovered how many free books there were. And I could read them on my phone, but those screens can get quite tiring on your eyes if you're reading for a long time. Plus, they can keep you awake. Whereas the Kindle Paperwhite, which is meant to look like an actual, like, to mimic paper, doesn't. So I switched to that. Yeah, when I first got it, actually, I took it out of the box and I was like, oh, there's a piece of paper stuck to the screen. I was kind of picking at it in the corner. It was like, oh, that is the screen. I thought there was like a protective cover on it or something. Like, oh, okay, because I was kind of skeptical. How well can they mimic paper? Well, they did pretty well, actually. So I'm on my second one now. My old one kept crashing and stuff, so. Yeah, if I'm reading nonfiction, I prefer a paper book because I like to be able to highlight, put sticky notes. And I know that you do have those features in an ebook, but it's not quite the same. You know, like you can tag, put bookmarks in it, and you can highlight notes, and you can even write notes too if you want. You can highlight something and add your own little note. But I don't know. There's just something that's very hard to replicate electronically in that experience of, yeah. I have read nonfiction that is an ebook, but yeah, like I say, when it's a reference book, I do like to have a paper copy. And again, like they do make it so you can flip back and forth and jump to sections, but I don't know. There's just something about being able to stick a sticky note and just grab it and pull it open at that page, that kind of, I feel can't quite be duplicated electronically. Ooh. Oh, pardon me. Looking forward to my guys coming back. I'll be traveling back soon. They've been away for work, my husband and my son, so yeah, it's been quiet around here. Just me. Before our son was born, there was sometimes I would go on my husband's work trip, and well, he worked during the day. I'd go be a tourist shopping and window shopping, and yeah. Then of course, after we had him, that wasn't as easy to do. All right, I think I will do a separate small piece for those couple of little stitches there by themselves. And I'm going to carry this piece, continue working out. So yeah, I'm going to kind of work sort of in strips almost, because the colors are kind of doing that. Yeah, sort of to about there, and then I will fill that in later once I move the whole frame over again. At that point, I will probably be switching this into an 11 by 11 inch frame. It's in a 11 by 17 inch at this point. And when I get to the that very far right hand edge, I put it in the smaller frame because then it's easier to reach. Oh dear. Let's not have that. Smooth that out again. Some bigger blocks with this color here, but as you can see, they're kind of got other colors running through them too. Lots of blues here. Yeah, a lot of the purples and pinks have been zeroed out, although there's still a few. Oh my gosh, I tell you, I'm not having luck today. Doesn't want to say smoothed out. And my hands are still kind of winter rough, and that tends to sometimes it snags the the thread and kind of pulls it. I do use lotion and all that, but yeah, on the prairies out here it's very dry and there's only so much you can do. You're always kind of playing catch up. didn't expect it to make that much of a difference, but when we moved here from BC, where it's more humid, our dining room table actually shrank. And it's one of those ones that has the center leaf that you can pull out and make it into a round one. And anyway, there's kind of a gap between the centerpiece and the outsides of a few millimeters because, yeah, like I said, it shrank enough from it being dry. I cover the whole thing with a tablecloth, so you don't really see it anyway, but I didn't expect it would make that big of a difference, but it certainly does. Just getting that to look nice and smooth there. We're attempting to. I decided to do a small piece for those ones there. I thought this one was out, maybe not. There it is. Oh, there it is. Ah, I tell you. I check my tray to see if it's out, but I can't seem to find it till I pull out the whole envelope, and then I see that my little thread card is not in there, which means the color has to be out. I don't put them in number order, so I just kind of choose a slot at random. Well, because I like to keep the colors that are really similar kind of apart from each other so I don't accidentally mix them up, because I've done that before. Because say like 160 and 161 are just one little shade difference, and I don't want to accidentally put the thread back in the wrong section and then be stitching with the wrong thread later. Alrighty. Oh dear. There's a dark kind of periwinkle color. Yeah, and I get my doctor's office where I work is closed for a week out of this month too, so like I said, I definitely think I can get this finished because I will have some extra stitching days that day or that week. Yeah, it was a maternity leave position, and they said if I still wanted to keep working for a bit, I can, and I said sure. So I'll be working one less day per week, but yeah. I figured, why not? Still waiting for my for our tax refund. Can take a few weeks, so we'll see. Yeah, we don't get as much now because our son is now over 18, so he's no longer a dependent, so we don't get quite as much as we did before. Oh dear. There's a hair in there. I could see that. Oh, come on. Oh, for Pete's sakes. Okay, I think I got it that time. When my guinea pig was still alive, sometimes her fur would get sewn in. Yeah, there was someone asking how do they keep it. Somebody said actually they just kind of leave it. It's their pet's contribution. Yeah, Buster, our guinea pig, it's been 3 years now since she passed away. I still miss her. I might get more guinea pigs, but I'm like, maybe when our nest is empty, when Kiddo has moved out, maybe then, I don't know. Yeah, we're not quite there yet. Like I said, he's doing his apprenticeship and then he will be given a position at a different location. They're hoping to put him at an office that's not too far away from us, like maybe less than an hour's drive, so he can still be, you know, close enough by. We can still do family dinners and that kind of thing. Pardon me. Okay, so this color, so you can see, kind of spreads out and branches off quite a bit. So I'm going to probably start from this edge, working that way, and build my way out from the left-hand side outwards. Because like I say, I like to keep things connected to stitches that are already completed. This will be a whole long line. Yeah, even with the World Championships on, I still managed to do really well. My stitch count, like I said, it wasn't as confetti heavy, so that really helped. Got a few more inches knitted on my blanket. I probably won't finish it till sometime next year. Yeah, I don't knit as much as I used to. I mostly only knit when I'm watching figure skating. That hair's coming back again. Yeah, I'm hoping this is the spring thaw now, but you never know. Yeah, I kind of joke because, like, we have Groundhog Day, right? February 2nd. And I always say, well, if we see that he gets 6 more weeks of winter, for us, that would be early spring, not late. Yeah, it's funny. It's the first official day of winter. And I'm like, oh, yeah, we've had snow on the ground for a month already. That's the first official day of spring. Not for us. Yeah, there was a comic and it had, December, Winter Wonderland, Festival of Lights. And then January, cold gray bucket of suck. Like, yep. Pretty much. I like having a white Christmas, and then I'd be fine if it just kind of went away after that. Okay, put that there. So now I'm gonna build up a bit more out this way, out to that where I said I was going to cut it off. So up to that, which is line about 470, fill all that in and then just move it over. So this goes up to line 550 is where it's finished. So you could see this was the edge of the last tail feather there. Another needle was coming along for the ride there. Yeah, they end up magnetized after a while. That. There we go. Just trying to form a knot. snagged again. I'm going to start another thread here. So yeah, I'm just going to kind of work that strip there. Yeah, past 100 stitches much quicker this time because it hasn't been quite as confetti heavy. Last time it took me a while. I was working on that tail feather and it was very detailed. There were a lot of colors, but I got to zero out like a dozen colors that day, so that was fun. It was very satisfying when I get to pull an envelope out of the tub and set it aside so it can go back into the primary set. Yeah, I could hear that and feel it. That one will kind of go below this line, but I don't worry about keeping a perfectly straight line anyway. So yeah, there's some people I've seen, Parker, are more disciplined than me, and they keep it row by row, line by line, but I am not. I am not that disciplined. I meander a bit when it suits me. Oh dear, that is not good. So around this edge here, yeah, I'll kind of drift it off. Pick it up later. Yeah, I passed 98% last month. I didn't think I would. I was thinking 97, maybe 97.5, but I passed 98, so that was pretty fun. So yeah, like I said, less than 2% left to do this month. I think that's doable. Last time I had to stitch well over an hour to reach 200 stitches done, but I don't think that'll be the case today. we go. Oh, I think I mixed up something here. Okay. No, I didn't. Okay. Or if I did, I can't see it at the moment. Maybe I'll see it later. Alrighty. Okay, so either way, I'm going to have to do a stitch out of order. So I say I try not to do stitches like this where they're off by themselves without being connected, but sometimes it's just more trouble than it's worth to avoid it, so I will do it. I can fill in around it, but yeah, it's pretty rare. I try not to, but like I say, it's just guidelines, not rules, and so if I have to tweak things a bit to get them to work, then I do that. I'm not so set on it that I'm not willing to bend sometimes when it calls for it. Because of the nature of sometimes threads are traveling up, sometimes they're traveling down, sometimes you just end up with ones that go past each other, and so do that as well. This one right here, then I will, there we go. This area has started to get a little more, more intricate. Nope, that's not right. I missed. Okay, so some new colors coming up here, and like I said, I'm gonna, cut it off around there. And go back to the left and work my way out. Saying this one was faster, but actually the last 50 stitches or so have kind of been slowed me down because they've been a lot of color changes. Oops. So I usually don't work across such a wide area, but the way the colors are going, it just kind of seemed natural to me to follow it. So, oh, I just realized I picked up the wrong thread. Yep. I picked up this one. Okay. Oh, what did I do here? Yeah, I did something wrong. Yeah, I stitched that one. And I should park it up here. Oh, I have messed up. Yeah, I have messed something up. Yeah, I just... Okay, so let's see. Oh yeah, I didn't do this one. That's what happened. I probably grabbed... Yeah, I was looking at the wrong thing and I stitched wrong. But because I always park it where the stitch will next be used, I actually didn't mess up too badly. I could fix it. Okay, so this one has been done, just so I don't mix myself up again. Oh, I parked that one wrong too. Haha. Oh, I tell ya. I sometimes know what I'm doing. Oh, I parked this in the lower left instead of the upper left. I think that's what I did, yeah. No problem. I usually don't do that, but I could be. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was looking in the wrong place. I bet some of you saw me doing that. Went, what are you doing, lady? That's okay, though, because it was only one stitch. I can fix it now. And this is another reason, like I say, why I like to stitch with a grid, because when I do mess it up, I can figure out what I did wrong fairly easily. Okay, so I parked this one here. That's okay. Just stitch it now. So I parked this one actually in the lower left instead of the upper right, what I normally do. That's okay. I can fix it now. There we go. Yeah, I got it right now. Yeah, when I have a lot of threads, sometimes that can happen, but usually, because I don't leave gaps, I tend to catch things pretty quickly after I mess up, which is what happened today. Yeah, I suddenly went, wait a minute, something is not, the pattern and my stitching do not match. What did I do? But people say, how do you keep from mixing up threads? I generally don't, but sometimes I do. I generally have it memorized after I've stitched for a while. I know which color is what. But yeah, always parking in the upper right, the same place, helps a lot. I did have once where it was kind of this hopeless, I couldn't figure out where I went wrong. What I did was I unparked everything and tied everything off and then started again. But that was like one time in years of stitching, so it's really rare. Just gonna smooth this out, they're not quite lined up properly. There we go, that's better. I'll stitch to 200 again. So yeah, the beginning of this 200 stitches went really quick at the beginning, but then started getting more color changes. That slowed me down again. So I kind of started with a curve and I kind of kept it. All right, one more stitch. Put me to 200. And that's where I'm going to call it a day. Alrighty, 200 even. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you here next time. Thanks, everyone. Bye.